The fighting type is one of my favorite types in all of Pokemon, and fighting types are aplenty in the Galar region, including some of my favorites like Lucario, Gallade, and Hawlucha. And there are some Pokemon that you can't find in one version, like the one I'm choosing, but I'll hatch eggs for some of them. And there are only 3 fighting types I can find outside of the base game, including Heracross. It's back to the Galar region for me, as I try to beat Pokemon Shield using only fighting types. Hi there, this is Sir J.K. Gallade, welcoming you to my second attempt at a Monotype run for fun in a Generation 8 Pokemon game. And even though this is not a hardcore Nuzlocke, I will try to make this as fun and challenging for me, as well as interesting and enjoyable for you. Now let's quickly go over the ground rules I've set for this run. The first one, I can only use fighting types in battle. The second one is I will be abiding by the obedience level cap, which starts at 20 and maxes out at 100 after you claim all 8 gym badges. But to avoid excessive overleveling, I will freeze the cap at level 75. The third rule, no items will be used during battle, but held items are acceptable. The fourth rule, which is also a standard Nuzlocke rule, if any of these fearsome fighters faint during an important battle, they are permanently boxed and will never be used again. And the fifth and final rule that I installed for this run, I will not use Dynamax at all until the opposing trainer has their ace left. So with that out of the way, let's begin. I chose to start this challenge as the male avatar. In the Galar region, none of the 3 starter Pokemon gained fighting or any other type as a secondary typing. But for the run to take off, I had to pick one of them, and I decided to pick my least favorite starter of the 3, the water type Sobble. For my actual starter, I needed to head to the wild area in search of fighting types. And the first one that eventually found me was Pancham. After making the quick capture, I was happy to see that this Pancham came with the ability Iron Fist, which powers up punching type moves, and Pancham can learn all 3 elemental punches, but we won't have access to those TMs until we reach the city of Winden. While fishing for items on the ground, I got ambushed from behind by a Tyrogue, my second fighting type for this run. Tyrogue is a unique Pokemon that has 3 different ways to evolve. While still in the wild area, I also managed to stumble across a Stuffle. As you probably noticed, that Stuffle had a brilliant aura around it, which means it's guaranteed to have 3 best IVs, and I also managed to catch this Stuffle with the Adamant Nature, a perfect nature for pretty much every single fighting type I catch in this run. Hoping to fill out the team, I unlocked the Isle of Armor DLC, and the first fighting type I could find in the Isle of Armor via a max raid den is the water type Poliwag, which is not a fighting type right away, but it will evolve into one once you get it to its middle stage Poliwhirl and find a water stone. Doing max raid dens in Sword and Shield in particular are crucial because you can get rare TRs, which access TMs for various moves and attacks that fighting types or any other Pokemon can learn. Heading up Challenge Road, I managed to catch a Mienfoo and find the TR for Throat Chop, a dark physical attack that many fighting types can learn to counter one of their cripplingly weaknesses to psychic types. The main reason why I picked Shield over Sword for this challenge, because in the Isle of Armor, Pokemon Shield is the only version of the 2 where you can find Heracross. After catching this Heracross in a net ball, I learned it had the ability Guts, which is an ability that powers up the Pokemon's attack stat whenever that Pokemon is suffering from a status condition, which is why I headed to Pot Bottom Desert immediately to pick up the Flame Orb. And while still in the Isle of Armor, I found one more fighting type that you could actually get in the base game as well, the Shield exclusive part Poison type Krogunk. Now that the early game preparations for this run are complete, I made it to the city of Motostoke for the Galar Gym Challenge opening ceremonies. It is there I will encounter for the first time all the gym leaders I'll be battling against throughout this run. However, only 7 of the 8 gym leaders were there, considering 1 was not at the opening ceremonies, and Dark-type gym leader Piers. Then I made it through the entrance tunnel to hear the roar of the crowd for the first time that will be commonplace throughout the Galar region. After navigating my way through Route 3 and the first Galar mines, defeating rivals Hop and Bede, I made my way over to the city of Turffield for the first gym battle. My first opponent in the Galar Gym Challenge is Turffield Grass Gym Leader Milo. His first Pokemon is Gossifleur. I led with Heracross. Even though I got the Pin Missile TM in Route 4 just outside of Turffield, Heracross naturally learns the Flying Physical Attack Aerial Ace, which never misses, and the first one scored a critical hit to take out Gossifleur. Milo's second Pokemon is his Ace and the evolved form of Gossifleur, Eldegoss. So I kept Heracross in, giving me the opportunity to Dynamax for the first time in the run. Milo's two Pokemon for this grass gym battle are pure grass types, which is why I elected to start this battle with Heracross, who immediately attacks Eldegoss with Max Airstream, a flying Dynamax move that increases the user's speed. Eldegoss had the opportunity to hit Heracross with the normal Dynamax move Max Strike to lower the speed back down to neutral, but it went for the less effective Max Overgrowth to set up a grassy terrain and gain just a little bit of HP back before Heracross gets the KO for the victory with a second Max Airstream. In just 3 short turns, Heracross sweeps the grass gym, securing my first gym badge of the Galar region, and Tyrogue reached level 20, evolving into one of his 3 evolutions in the punching phenom Hitmonchan. The obedience cap is now at 25 as a result of the win. Gym battle number 2 resides in the amazing looking city of Holbury. Now that I have one gym badge, it unlocks the ability of hatching Pokemon eggs at the Pokemon Nursery in Route 5. So I made good use of that opportunity immediately by hatching 2 eggs of Pokemon Sword exclusives for fighting types, starting by hatching an egg for the part Dark type Scraggy. Then hatching an egg for the Dragon type Jangmo that gains the Fighting type ability once it evolves into its middle stage. And I also hatched an egg for the Hoenn region starter that you can get at the Crown Tundra DLC, Torchic, which is a pure fire type until it evolves into its middle stage, which it does at level 16, Combuskin. I also hatched this Torchic with its hidden ability Speed Boost before returning to the wild area to get 2 notable items. First, by getting the held item Leftovers, and then a Water Stone, which is needed to evolve my only water type Pokemon Poliwag. And speaking of water types, that's exactly what the gym leader of Holbury masters in, and her name is Nessa. Her first Pokemon is Goldeen, but my entire strategy for this fight was centered around Dreadnought, Nessa's ace Pokemon, considering its ability for this gym battle is its hidden ability Swift Swim, which is kind of uncommon for a Pokemon boss to have a hidden ability in the base game story. Once Dreadnought is Dynamaxed, it can set up the rain with Max Geyser, which will set up Swift Swim, doubling Dreadnought's speed, which is why I had this strategy with my only Pokemon I used for this fight, Hitmonchan, to shut that plan down. I had Hitmonchan use Power Up Punch 3 times to knock out Goldeen in 2 hits, and Nessa's second Pokemon, Arrokuda, in 1. Power Up Punch is a busted fighting physical attack that deals damage and increases the user's attack each time it lands. Hitmonchan is now at a +3 right before Nessa Dynamaxes Dreadnought. Hitmonchan is the only fighting Pokemon that I have currently that can learn all the elemental punches naturally. And right before I entered the Holbury Gym, I made sure Hitmonchan knew Thunder Punch, which turns into Max Lightning when the Pokemon uses an electric attack when Dynamaxed. Sound strategy that works to perfection leads to another solo sweep of a gym by my fearsome fighters. This time, Hitmonchan gets the adulation from the fans, I earn my second gym badge, and the obedience level cap jumps up to 30. After defeating Nessa, it was time to get down to serious business. At level 25, Poliwag evolved in the Poliwhirl, giving me the opportunity to finally use that Water Stone to evolve Poliwhirl into Poliwrath, as I now gain a new fighting type. Adding a water type is exactly what I need for what's to come in my return to Monotype. But before that happens, I'm challenged to battle once again by Bede. Nice try, cocky boy. Better luck next time. Before returning to Monotype in pursuit of my third gym badge, I returned to the wild area to catch one of the Kanto region fighting type staples, Machop. And after catching Machop, I learned that it had the impish nature and the ability No Guard. Machop could have been my second fighting type in this run with Guts, but Machop's No Guard ability will ensure Pokemon attacks will always land, regardless if their accuracy is not at 100%. Now back in Monotype, I return to the stadium to challenge Fire-type Gym Leader Kabu, who has a team of 3 that are all fully evolved, and his first 2 Pokemon also hail from the Kanto region. Kabu's notable tactic for this fight is that his first 2 Pokemon will try to burn yours with Will-O-Wisp, which cut in half the power of physical attacks. And the team I had for this battle are all physical attackers, including my chosen lead Pokemon Poliwrath, the first Will-O-Wisp from Ninetales Mist, which allows for Poliwrath to keep its Rostberry attached to it after connecting with a waterfall. Thinking that Ninetales is going for Will-O-Wisp again, I brought in Combusken to take the next attack, which ended up being a less effective Ember. I then had Combusken get the KO with Aerial Ace, before swapping Poliwrath back in to go up against Arcanine. A very powerful Pokemon for a gym leader to have at this stage of a Pokemon game. It also has the Intimidate ability, lowering the attack stat of Poliwrath by 1. Arcanine predictably used Will-O-Wisp to burn Poliwrath, which is exactly why I had the Rostberry in order for Poliwrath to heal itself from the burn, before the combination of Bulldoze followed by Liquidation took Arcanine deep into the red before it burned Poliwrath again. Now for the rest of this fight, Poliwrath's attack power is completely nerfed right before knocking out Arcanine with Waterfall. Arcanine also loses a bit of HP because of the burn, as Kabu's down to his final Pokemon, Gigantamax Centiskorch. I simply let Poliwrath finish what it started, considering Centiskorch only has resistant moves against Poliwrath because of Poliwrath's water and fighting dual typing. That's due in large part to the fact that Centiskorch is also a bug type, a type that resists and are resisted by fighting types. Poliwrath struck first with Max Geyser, which now becomes even more powerful for the remainder of this battle because Max Geyser sets up the rain. Centiskorch then attacked with Max Flutterby, the Bug Dynamax move, which Poliwrath doesn't seem to care about because Max Flutterby only lowers the special attack of the opposing Pokemon by 1 stage. So Poliwrath simply traded attacks until Centiskorch was completely washed away by the 3rd Max Geyser from Poliwrath. My fearsome fighters and I completely run over what is deemed as the first roadblock in the Gallade region in collecting our 3rd gym badge, raising the obedience cap in the run to 35. Now with 3 gym badges in tow, the map opens up for both the game and the wild area, which allows for me to reach the city of Hammerlock. What also opens up is the ability to catch and evolve more of my fearsome fighting types, including Stuffle as it evolves into Beware. Now in Route 6 at a 5% clip by random encounter, I was also able to catch Kalos Region All-Star Howlucha. and thank goodness I was able to catch it on the first try in a luxury ball. But the evolutions didn't stop there, as Machop evolved into Machoke. But in order for Machoke to evolve one more time, I put it briefly in Pokemon Home and into my main save file of Pokemon Legends Arceus. Fed it a linking cord, that way Machoke can gain another set of arms and become Machamp. At the exact current obedience level cap of 35, Jangmo-o, my dragon type, can now add the fighting typing by evolving into Hakamo-o. And with Scraggy still in my party, that was the requirement needed to evolve Pancham into Pangoro, which is perfect timing because Pangoro is now my second fighting and dark dual typing right before I head to the next city, Stow-on-Side, which is the site of my 4th gym battle. In Pokemon Shield, the Stow-on-Side gym is a Ghost-type gym, which means we now go up against Ghost-type gym leader Alistair. Ghost types are completely immune to fighting type attacks, which makes this the first difficulty spike of the run. Alistair's first Pokemon is the Galarian version of Yamask, which is also a ground type, which is why for the second straight gym battle I led off with Poliwrath, destroying Galarian Yamask with the combination of Liquidation and Waterfall. Yamask disabled Liquidation after being hit by it, which is why I had 2 Water-type moves equipped. The next Pokemon Alistair subs in is Mimikyu, a Ghost and Fairy type. But fortunately for this gym battle, Mimikyu does not have any Fairy-type moves in its moveset. So I had Poliwrath lower the speed of Mimikyu by a stage with Bulldoze, which also broke Mimikyu's disguise. I then swapped in Beware for her battling debut to take the next attack, which is the normal type Slash. And speaking of normal types, that's exactly what Beware is as well, which means it's completely immune to Ghost type attacks. I simply had Beware chip away at Mimikyu with the neutral Brutal Swing, which is a dark type attack, before the third Brutal Swing scored a crit to knock Mimikyu out. With Mimikyu now gone, I swapped in Scraggy to make its gym battle debut against Alistair's third Pokemon, Cursola. Scraggy struck hard with a super effective Crunch, which activated Cursula's weak armor ability, doubling its speed before Cursula hit with a less effective Hex, then surprisingly took itself out by using Curse, which not only caused Scraggy's second Crunch attack to fail, it also inflicted Scraggy with a Curse, which means it will now lose 25% of its HP as long as Scraggy is on the battlefield. I eliminated that curse completely by bringing in Pangoro to make its gym battle debut against Alistair's ace Pokemon Gengar, which is about to Gigantamax into a frightening sight to behold. It also has a very high special attack stat and blazing speed, as it outspeeds all of the Pokemon I have in my party. Not only that, this Gengar is at level 36, and all of my Pokemon, including Pangoro, entered into this gym battle at level 35. Unfortunately for Gengar, it used Max Darkness, which is not effective against Pangoro, but very effective against Gengar for the one-hit KO and my 4th gym badge in the Galar region. The obedience cap now reaches 40, and business is surely about to pick up. After the battle with Alistair, I headed towards the mural after hearing a loud explosion, and I found out what the commotion was about. It was Bede and a Caparaja attacking the mural. Annoyed by my presence, Bede decided to challenge me for the 3rd time, but his psychic types, despite having the advantage, were clearly outclassed as my quartet of Pangoro, Hawlucha, Heracross, and Scraggy collectively delivered a well-organized beatdown of Bede's team of 4. That pathetic display was witnessed by Chairman Rose, who immediately disqualified Bede from the Galar Gym Challenge. The next stop for my fearsome fighters and I is Balonea, the town where the 5th gym badge will commence. In my first visit, I was able to finish off a task and get the choice scarf held item, and one of my fearsome fighters got to evolve into its final stage, as Judge evolved at level 36 into Blaziken. So far, this run has been going along pretty well, but it was finally time I stopped fooling around and get my two favorite fighters to join the team. Starting by finding a max raid den that actually had a Kirlia in it. I know what many of you are all saying at this point. Wait a minute, Kirlia is a psychic and fairy type. That's true. But after defeating Dynamax Kirlia in the den before making the capture in a luxury ball, I got exactly what I needed. This Kirlia is a male, and it also came with the defense boosting special attack lowering impish nature. Plus it had the trace ability, but in Generation 8, it remains that way. And not that far from the den, I managed to find a Dawnstone, which is exactly what is needed to trigger this evolution. Now that I have a fully evolved Gallade, my fighting type Pokemon roster is completely stacked already. But I figured, if this particular moment is good enough for Ash Ketchum, it should be good enough for me as well. That's right, I managed to hatch myself a Riolu egg. Considering in Pokemon Sword and Shield, Riolu can only be found along with Lucario in snowy weather in the wild area. This Riolu came with the neutral nature and the steadfast ability, but in order for Riolu to evolve, it has to have max friendship. So I pitched a tent multiple times to spend time with the 6 Pokemon in my party alongside Riolu, while also giving extra attention to Riolu, that once its friendship is high, it can evolve into Lucario. My favorite fighting Pokemon of all time is a jack of all trades, as it gains the secondary steel typing, meaning that Lucario is no longer weak to Psychic, Fairy, and Flying. And with the obedience cap currently at 40, 2 more of my fighting types can evolve at level 37. Kroguk evolves into Toxicroak. And at level 39, Scraggy can finally evolve into Scrafty. One of 2 main reasons why I hatched a Riolu egg was because I was lacking special attackers in my fearsome fighting type Pokemon roster. The second reason is because Lucario now gaining the secondary steel type makes Lucario one of only 2 fighting types on my entire roster that can take neutral damage from fairy type attacks. And the Balonea Gym just so happens to have fairy type gym leader Opal as our opponent. Opal is quite generous to her challengers because she will quiz you 3 times during the bout. Answer the first question correctly, your Pokemon gets a double speed boost. Answer the second one correctly, you get a double boost to both your physical and special defense. The third and final question you get right, you get a double boost to both your attack and special attack stats. Combine Opal's Gym Battle Quiz by bringing in a Steel type, it completely trivializes the whole experience, especially when Lucario can learn Nasty Plot, which sharply boosts its special attack stat by 2 stages, using it and Detect on every alternating turn against Opal's first Pokemon, Galarian Weezing, who can only hit Lucario neutrally with Fairy Wind because Lucario resists its normal attack tackle and is completely immune to its poison attack Sludge. And by the time I was done answering all 3 of Opal's questions, her entire team of 4 fairies gets absolutely dissected by Lucario's Flash Cannon, which easily wiped out Weezing, Togekiss, and Mawile before Gigantamax XL Creamy gets turned into a pincushion by Lucario's Max Steel Spike. With that perpetual performance that left Opal perplexed, Lucario is the 3rd fighting type in this run to completely sweep a Gallade region gym. I now own 5 gym badges, and the obedience level cap is now at 45. Wanting to further bolster my fighting types, I headed back to the Isle of Armor and visited the Master Dojo. After getting enough max mushrooms, I was able to make max soup for Machamp, giving it the ability to Gigantamax. Returning to the Gallade region, I caught a Phalanx en Route 8. And before reaching our next destination, I also found a very crucial TM in Brick Break before safely arriving in the city of Circhester. And once I visited Circhester, I was able to pick up the TM for Rock Tomb before challenging the Circhester Gym, which is an Ice-type gym in Pokemon Shield, as I go up against a very cool customer in Melanie. Her first Pokemon is the Gen 8 Ice-type bug, Frostmoth, and I decided to lead with Scrafty. Frostmoth sets up the Hail, which will do damage to all of my Pokemon at the end of each turn for 5 turns before Frostmoth got dropped by a quad effect of Rock Tomb. The next Pokemon Melanie sends out is a very powerful one in Galarian Darmanitan. I swapped out Scrafty, removing its 1-stage attack boost due to its Moxie ability in favor of Gallade, making its gym battle debut against Galarian Darmanitan, who brought Gallade's HP down to under half with a powerful Icicle Crash before Gallade respawns, destroying Galarian Darmanitan in one shot with Brick Break. There are 3 turns of the Hailstorm left, as Melanie's third Pokemon is Ice-Q with the Ice Face ability, so I brought in another fighting type, making its gym battle debut in Toxicroak, attacking on the first turn to break the Ice Face with Brick Break. Ice-Q retaliated by lowering the speed of Toxicroak by 1 stage with Icy Wind. At this stage of the bout, it was important for me to get rid of Ice-Q as fast as I could, right before it can set up the Hail once again once the Hail turns are up, because Ice-Q can get its Ice Face ability back. On the 4th turn of Hail, Ice-Q boosted its special defense by 2 stages by using Amnesia, so I had Toxicroak use Toxic to do some chip damage, before on the next turn, Ice-Q used Amnesia again, putting its special defense to a +4, which gifted Toxicroak another free turn to attack, and wiping out Ice-Q with another Brick Break, which was important because right after Ice-Q went down, the Hailstorm ended. Right as Melanie was about to reveal her final Pokemon is my favorite Ice type in all of Pokemon, Lapras. So I figured the best Pokemon to counter Lapras is to bring in Machamp. Melanie was first on the draw and was able to Gigantamax Lapras, as I do the same with Machamp, who, like Toxicroak and Gallade, was making its gym battle debut in this run. Immediately on the first turn between 2 Gigantamax Pokemon, Lapras strikes first with Max Geyser to set up the rain. Machamp counters with its signature move G-Max Chi Strike, which does super effective damage and boosts the critical hit ratio of Machamp. Lapras then counters on the next turn with its signature Gigantamax move G-Max Resonance, a powerful Ice-type attack that also sets up an Aurora Veil, which further boosts Lapras' defenses. I had Machamp use G-Max Chi Strike again, but was not able to get a crit. So on the 3rd turn, fearing that Lapras was going to go for another G-Max Resonance, I had Machamp use Max Guard on the final turn of Dynamax to shield Machamp from that attack. With the rain still in effect, Lapras sees a KO with Surf, so I swapped Machamp out and brought Toxicroak back in to soak up the attack like it was nothing, because I caught Toxicroak as a Croagunk with the ability Dry Skin, which heals the Pokemon with that ability in rainy weather, but it also damages the Pokemon with that ability in sunny weather. From there, it was a case of good old Toxic stalling, as I had Toxicroak badly poison Lapras, who retaliated by lowering Toxicroak's speed with Icy Wind. Lapras' next best attack is Ice Beam, since it can't hit Toxicroak with Water-type moves, so I simply had Toxicroak protect itself, and Lapras succumbed to the poison. By virtue of breaking Melanie's ice, 6 badges down, 2 to go, and the obedience threshold level cap has now reached level 50. The roster of my fearsome fighting types is about to get even more powerful because at level 45, we now have our pseudo-legendary from the Alola region, Komo-o, as I reach the city of Spikemuth in pursuit of our 7th gym badge, as we are about to face off against gym leader Piers. This is the only gym in Pokemon Sword and Shield that does not have a power spot, which means we can't Dynamax our Pokemon. But in this particular battle, we don't need it, because fighting types have a decisive advantage over dark types, as I lead with Blaziken to throw hands against Piers' very own Scrafty, who loves to use Fake Out on the first turn to get a flinch, which is why I had Blaziken protect itself. Blaziken had his attack stat lowered before the match begun because this Scrafty has the ability Intimidate. Blaziken chopped down 3/4 of Scrafty's HP with Brick Break. Scrafty retaliated by using Sand Attack to lower the accuracy of Blaziken before going down to a second Brick Break. In order to shake off the accuracy drop, I swapped out Blaziken in favor of Heracross, considering the next Pokemon Piers sends out is the part Psychic type Malamar. Heracross is weak to Psychic type attacks, but Malamar is extremely allergic to bugs, as it goes down in only 2 hits thanks to Heracross's quad-effective multi-hit attack Pin Missile. Piers' penultimate Pokemon is Obstagoon, who is quad weak to fighting, but can easily mess you up with Obstruct and Counter, which is mainly why I brought in my special attack and extraordinaire Lucario to one-shot Obstagoon out of contention with its signature attack Aura Sphere. The final Pokemon left for Piers is Skuntank, a part poison type that will only take neutral damage from fighting type attacks. So it gave me the perfect opportunity to not only bring in Hawlucha for the first time in a Galar Region gym, but to show off Hawlucha's signature attack, Flying Press, which has the unique ability of doing fighting and flying type damage, using 2 of them to wipe out Skuntank for the victory. After suffering aftermath damage, Hawlucha was able to heal all of it back by eating a citrus berry right before Piers surrenders to me my 7th gym badge, and the obedience cap is now at 55. Before going back to Hammerlock so I can challenge for my 8th and final gym badge, I headed back to the wild area to catch my final fighting type encounter, Conkeldurr, giving me a second Pokemon with the Guts ability, and one of the fighting types I caught earlier on can finally contribute as it evolves from Mienfoo into Mienshao, who I put on my team for this final gym fight against Dragon-type gym leader, Galar Region's favorite Weatherman, and double battle maestro Raihan, whose first Pokemon Flygon lowered the attack stat of both of my Pokemon, Hitmonchan and Lucario, by using Breaking Swipe, before Hitmonchan wipes out Flygon with a quad-effective Ice Punch. After taking an Aura Sphere, Raihan's other lead Pokemon, Gigalith, brought Lucario dangerously down to 22 HP with a super effective Body Press, right as Raihan brought out his third Pokemon, Sandaconda. Both of Raihan's Pokemon immediately sees a KO on Lucario, so I swapped out and brought in Poliwrath, who can hit both of Raihan's current Pokemon on the field super effectively, which is exactly what Hitmonchan does to Sandaconda with a critical hit Ice Punch, even though Hitmonchan was at -1 in attack because of Flygon's Breaking Swipe. As predicted, Sandaconda and Gigalith both attacked the right side of the field, hitting Poliwrath with the combination of Earth Power and Body Press, leaving Poliwrath still in green health. On the very next turn of this bout, Raihan is about to lose 2 more Pokemon, as Gigalith goes down to Hitmonchan's -1 Drain Punch, which gives Hitmonchan some valuable HP back. And then Sandaconda gets wiped out by Poliwrath's super effective Waterfall. I decided to keep Hitmonchan in and swap Poliwrath out. That way we can get in for the first time in a battle, Mienshao, as Raihan's final Pokemon is his ace, the Dragon and Steel type Duraludon, who Raihan turns into an Empire State Building look-alike in its Gigantamax form. Duraludon immediately attacks Hitmonchan, bringing it down to yellow health again with a max steel spike, which also increases its physical defense. I had Hitmonchan counter-strike and heal a little bit of the HP that it lost with Drain Punch before swapping out in favor of Komo-o. Mienshao then unloaded with a powerful Aura Sphere, which left Duraludon with a slither of its HP. Duraludon punched right back with Max Knuckle to gain an attack boost, taking off a third of the health bar of Mienshao. Not that I needed to, I Dynamaxed Komo-o on the very next turn, fearing that Duraludon was going to go for its signature G-Max attack, G-Max Depletion, which cuts off 4 power points of a random attack of the opposing Pokemon. But we'll never know how that move looks in this battle, as Mienshao finishes off the remainder of Duraludon's HP with a second Aura Sphere. And just like that, my fearsome fighting types have officially collected all 8 Galar Region Gym Badges, which officially maxes out the obedience threshold level cap at 100, but as per my Monotype rules, I freeze the cap at level 75. Time to say goodbye to Hammerlock, hop on my Rotom bike to the Hammerlock train station, and head all the way to the city of Winden. My rival Hop and I have safely arrived at the mecca of all Pokemon battling in the Galar region, the city of Winden. And the first thing I did immediately upon arrival was head to the nearest Pokemon Center near Winden Stadium to purchase the technical machines of Drain Punch and all 3 Elemental Punches, which many and all of my fighting types can learn. And I made sure most of the Pokemon had those moves in its moveset as we now enter the stadium to register for the Champions Cup and take on our first Champion Cup semifinal battle against the pride of Spikemuth, Marnie, who, like her gym-leading brother Piers, is at a disadvantage because she too rocks a team with dark types. Her first one is Liepard that has the Prankster ability, but my lead Mienshao outdid itself by getting a critical hit with Fake Out before knocking out Liepard with a super effective bug physical attack U-turn, swapping out as I brought Gallade in, thinking that Marty was going to bring in her only non-dark type Toxicroak. But instead she decides to bring out her own Scrafty in the battle next, so I immediately hard switched into Hawlucha, who dive bombs and obliterates Scrafty with a super effective expert belt boosted Brave Bird. Hawlucha lost a quarter of its HP due to Brave Bird recoil, putting Hawlucha in knockout range from any electric attack by Marnie's next Pokemon, Morpeko. So once again I hard countered by bringing in Blaziken. After Morpeko used Torment, it gets dropped instantaneously by Blaziken's super effective Earthquake. Now Marnie brings in her own Toxicroak to enter into battle next, as I brought back in Gallade. Toxicroak struck first with the dark priority move Sucker Punch, which hit Gallade for neutral damage before Gallade retaliates with a devastating muscle band boosted quad effective Psycho Cut. The climax of this fight is now upon us, as Marnie is only left with her ace Pokemon, Gigantamax Grimmsnarl, which is also a Fairy type. So it's once again time to fully unleash my designated Fairy type stopper in Lucario, Dynamaxing my chosen ace for this fight. Out of all 3 rivals that you battle throughout the main story of the game, Marnie is my favorite. So no hard feelings when her Gigantamax Grimmsnarl gets dropped by Lucario's Max Steel Spike. With Marnie now in my rearview mirror, time to press on to the second Champion Cup semifinal match against another rival. And that rival's name is Hop. Unfortunately for him, 2 of his 5 Pokemon are weak to fighting type moves, including his first Pokemon, one of his 2 pure normal types, Wooloo. So I let off with Heracross, setting up a Swords Dance to boost Heracross's attack by 2 stages because I want Heracross to get burned at the end of the turn, considering it's holding a Flame Orb. After a super effective Zen Headbutt connects, the Flame Orb activates, which triggers Heracross's Guts ability. Spelling the end of Dubwool for this fight compliments of Heracross's Brick Break. But because Heracross is quad weak to flying, that immediately sends out the second Pokemon for Hop, Corviknight. I subbed in Blaziken, who nearly one-shots Corviknight with a powerful Fire Punch, Corviknight lowered the speed of Blaziken by 2 stages with Scary Face, but Blaziken is now at a +1 because of the speed boost ability. Hop decided to heal Corviknight with a full restore, basically giving up on his Steely Bird, as it went down to 2 more Fire Punches. Hop's third Pokemon is his second pure normal type Snorlax, who will not be avoiding the pummeling it's about to get from a champ's now 100% accurate Dynamic Punch because of the No Guard ability. Gallade makes his second appearance in the Champions Cup to square off against Hop's fourth Pokemon, Pincurchin. Gallade lands a powerful Leaf Blade that took off half of Pincurchin's health, but instead of attacking, Pincurchin set up its attack and defense with Curse before going down to Gallade's second attack, Drain Punch. Leaving Hop with only one Pokemon, his ace, and the starter he had to choose after I picked the Water-type Sobble in the Fire starter Cinderace, a speedy rabbit that can potentially sweep my team if we let it because it has the flying physical attack Acrobatics. Wanting to put that fire out, I swapped in my part Water-type Poliwrath for the final part of this fight, as we both Dynamax our Pokemon. Cinderace outruns Poliwrath by a mile and connects with a super effective Max Airstream, before Poliwrath literally and figuratively gives Cinderace the cold shower with a powerful Max Geyser for the one-hit KO. Hop's silly prediction of him being the next Galar Region champion blows up in his face, as I'm the one that emerges victorious. It's onward to the Champion Cup Finals. My hot streak has been put on pause as Hop and I ascend to the top of Rose Tower, hoping to put a stop to Macrocosmos Chairman Rose's stupid ambition of wanting to protect the Galar region, when in reality, he's secretly trying to destroy it, and his administrative assistant, the crazy lady Oleana, stands in my way. Oleana has a strong team of 5, but her first Pokemon, Frostlass, gets promptly removed from the battle with ease thanks to Lucario's Flash Cannon. Oleana's second Pokemon is Salazzle, who threatens Lucario with Flamethrower. So I swapped in Gallade, who immediately gets poisoned on turn 1 because of Salazzle's poison gas, but Gallade is just too good, as Salazzle gets wiped out by a Psycho Cut. My third Pokemon, Toxicroak, comes in to knock out Oleana's third Pokemon, Serena, with a super effective Poison Jab. I brought Gallade back in, holding the Scope Lens, to emphatically slice through the defenses of Oleana's penultimate Pokemon, Milotic, with a critical hit Leaf Blade. Gallade, also being a Psychic type, has the type advantage against the ace Pokemon of Oleana, Garbodor. But I have a devious plan in mind for Oleana's precious final partner, as I swapped in Lucario, then immediately swapped out in favor of Hawlucha right before Oleana Gigantamaxes Garbodor, because Garbodor was going for Max Quake, which Hawlucha is immune to. I then swapped Lucario back in on the next Dynamax turn, considering Oleana was going to go for Garbodor's signature move G-Max Melodor, which Lucario is immune to. The bait and switch tactic continues for the third and final turn of Dynamax, as I brought Hawlucha in to show off that flying type immunity to Max Quake. And from that point on, it was my goal to completely disrespect Oleana to the max by then Dynamaxing Hawlucha on the very next turn. I took the Macrocosmos interruption to the Champions Cup personal, and I also taught Hawlucha the TM for Dig, a ground physical attack, which is now Max Quake, striking for super effective damage. Oleana wasted the final turn by using Toxic Spikes, giving Hawlucha a completely free win with Max Airstream. Oleana gets humbled and humiliated in defeat, as I make it back to Winden for the resumption of the Champions Cup. Back at Winden Stadium, I'm primed and ready to take on the best Galar has to offer in the Champion Cup Finals, a tournament against the Galar gym leaders in rematches. But before I can find out who my first opponent is, Bede rudely decides to enter the chat and challenge me to one final battle. He's the brand new Fairy-type gym leader after being recruited by Opal. pivot switching from his old Psychic-type persona, still providing my fearsome fighters a disadvantage, but I have more than enough counters to take Bede down one more time, starting with Blaziken against Bede's lead Pokemon Mawile, which drops an Intimidate on Blaziken to lower its attack stat. Blaziken struck first with a super effective Fire Punch before being nailed by a neutral critical hit Play Rough. Instead of going for the knockout, Bede healed up his Mawile with a full restore, only for Mawile to lose all of his HP on the next turn thanks to Blaziken's Earthquake. Bede may still have a Fairy-type team, but he still hasn't lost his Psychic Touch considering his last 3 Pokemon are all Fairy and Psychic dual typings, starting with Gardevoir. Despite my next Pokemon being quad weak to Psychic, Toxicroak outspeeds and nails Gardevoir for a one-hit KO with Poison Jab. Bede's last 2 Pokemon were on his previous 2 teams when I defeated him, starting with the much more speedy Galarian Rapidash, who effortlessly brings Toxicroak down to 1 HP with Psycho Cut, considering I made good use of one of the only 2 Focus Sashes you get throughout the entire game. Toxicroak then wiped out Galarian Rapidash with Poison Jab, setting the stage for the final part of this fight, as Bede is left with his ace Pokemon Gigantamax Hatterene, whose signature G-Max move is a fairy attack G-Max Smite that leaves the opposing Pokemon confused after nailing the move. However, the Pokemon I have on the field currently is Lucario, which Hatterene has a counter for considering it knows Mystical Fire. Hatterene, while in its Gigantamax form, can also set up a Psychic Terrain by using Max Mindstorm. But Lucario has the upper hand. Down goes Gigantamax Hatterene to a Max Steel Spike. My fearsome fighters once again stand triumphant over Bede, and the Champion Cup Finals can finally proceed. Round 1 of the Champions Cup pairs me up against Water Gym Leader Nessa first, and she has a much more formidable team than what she had in the Gym Challenge, as she leads with the part Bug-type Golisopod, which is why I elected to start with Hawlucha, triggering Golisopod's emergency exit with a super effective Acrobatics, forcing Pelipper into action. Pelipper sets up the rain with his Drizzle ability, but Hawlucha has speed for days, taking Pelipper down to red health with a quad-effective Thunder Punch before taking a stinging Air Slash. Wanting to keep Pelipper around for a while, Nessa uses a full restore, but Pelipper goes down on the next 2 turns with Hawlucha's Thunder Punch and Drain Punch combination. Hawlucha gains valuable HP back thanks to the Drain Punch as Pelipper goes down. Nessa's next Pokemon is the hard-hitting Barraskewda. I swapped out and brought Toxicroak in, hoping to bait out a Water-type move. Then realizing that fatal flaw, I brought Hawlucha back in, remembering that Barraskewda has the ground physical attack Drill One. However, Barraskewda also has Ice Fang, which strikes Hawlucha for super effective damage, bringing one of my prize fighters down to 10 HP, forcing me to call for Drain Punch for Hawlucha to heal. Knowing that another Ice Fang is coming, I swapped Hawlucha out and brought in Hitmonchan instead. After taking the Ice Fang and thankfully avoiding the possibility of being frozen, Hitmonchan scores the knockout with another Drain Punch. Hawlucha is way too valuable for me to lose at this point of the game, but I brought Hawlucha back in, seeing that Nessa was going to bring out the already weakened Golisopod, who goes down in a flash thanks to Hawlucha's second Acrobatics. I swapped Hawlucha out once again once Seaking entered the battlefield. As Toxicroak comes in for the second time, Seaking sets up an Aqua Ring. So I had Toxicroak attack on the very next turn with Drain Punch, striking for over half of Seaking's health before Seaking attacked with a less effective Mega Horn, a base 120 power bug physical attack. After gaining a little bit of HP back because of the Aqua Ring, I had Toxicroak use Poison Jab for the KO. Nessa's 5th and final Pokemon is her familiar ace Dreadnought, but this time Dreadnought does not have its hidden ability Swift Swim. Instead, it has one of its more 2 natural abilities, Shell Armor, which prevents Dreadnought from ever being struck by a critical hit. Unfortunately for Nessa, Dreadnought also has the distinction of being a rock type, meaning it can't touch grass. That's why I brought Gallade in, and after Dynamaxing my second favorite fighting type behind only Lucario, Gallade had Leaf Blade in its moveset, which becomes Max Overgrowth, putting the finishing touches on a surprisingly tense rematch with Nessa. My strategic mind and the ability to adjust on the fly is still as sharp as attack. Time to move on to the next matchup, which just so happens to be against Ghost Gym Leader Alistair, who leads with the bulky Dusknoir. So I decided to lead with Heracross. Wanting to activate Guts considering Heracross is holding the Flame Orb, I had Heracross strike Dusknoir for a third of its health with Earthquake, before Dusknoir lowers the speed of Heracross with Rock Tomb. I immediately swapped out after Flame Orb activated and brought in Machamp to take the next Rock Tomb, before Machamp takes a page out of Incineroar's playbook, destroying Dusknoir with Darkest Lariat. I brought Poliwrath in next to go up against Alistair's second Pokemon, Chandelure. Poliwrath hit for super effective damage with Bulldoze, lowering Chandelure's speed. Chandelure then missed with Will-O-Wisp before biting the dust on the next turn. Time for my fighting and dark dual typings to take center stage for the first time in the Champions Cup, as I brought out Scrafty to go up against Poltergeist, who used the first turn to protect itself from going down to Scrafty's Crunch attack. After attacking with Giga Drain on the next turn, Poltergeist was a goner. Alistair's down to 2 Pokemon remaining, and the next one is Cursola, who's pretty frail in physical defense, giving Pangoro a completely free KO as it also knows Darkest Lariat. And here is the main reason why I wanted to activate Heracross's Guts ability at the start of this fight, is because Alistair's ace Pokemon Gigantamax Gengar is weak to ground type attacks. This Guts boosted Max Quake proves to be way too much for Gengar to handle. With Alistair now eliminated, only one match remains to determine who will be the one to face Champion Leon. This rematch with Raihan is the final hurdle I must clear if I'm going to earn that shot of facing Leon, as his first Pokemon Torkoal sets up the sun, thinking it's going to get an easy KO with Solar Beam because I have Poliwrath out first, which is exactly why I made sure Poliwrath had Rain Dance in its moveset, which not only washes away the sun, it prevents Torkoal from firing off Solar Beam. The purpose of the rain is to also boost the power of this liquidation by 50%, more than enough to take Torkoal out. But with the rain up, that means Goodra's coming out second. Goodra does not have any Dragon-type attacks in its moveset, making it completely safe to bring in Kommo-o. Rain Dance is one of the moves Goodra has, which is exactly why I put the rain up before Goodra can set it up for itself. After Kommo-o's first breaking swipe failed to get the KO, Raihan healed Goodra up completely with a full restore, so Kommo-o upped the ante on the very next turn, destroying Goodra with a critical hit breaking swipe. That same Dragon physical attack, that's a TM that Raihan literally gives you after you beat him in the gym challenge. Against his third Pokemon Turtonator, I brought in Mienshao to get a flinch on the first turn with Fake Out. Going for a second flinch, I connected with the super effective Rock Slide, but since I didn't get that small percentage, Mienshao got punished for it with a powerful Shell Trap that brought Mienshao down to 18 hit points remaining. Not wanting to lose Mienshao because of a potential miss with the next Rock Slide, I swapped out and brought back in Poliwrath, causing the next Shell Trap attempt by Turtonator to fail, which gives Poliwrath free reign to get his second KO of the bout with Liquidation. Raihan's fourth Pokemon is Flygon, who was not an issue in the gym double battle, so I brought back Kommo-o to prove to Flygon who the better dragon is between the two of them, as Flygon goes down to a quad-effective Ice Punch. Raihan is now starting to crack under the pressure, as his final Pokemon is his Ace Duraludon. So for an ultimate Battle of Titans, I decided to finish this fight off with Machamp, as both of us Gigantamax our Pokemon. Machamp may have the type advantage, but as proven in the Ice Gym battle against Melanie, Machamp can outlast Duraludon in the long game. Duraludon moves first and decided to use Max Steel Spike to boost its defenses by a stage. Even so, this G-Max Chi Strike still struck for half of Duraludon's health, On the next turn, Duraludon wanted to get its attack boosted a bit, so it hit Machamp with Max Knuckle, before the second G-Max Chi Strike took Duraludon deep into the red. Raihan decided to throw the match by having Duraludon set up the Sandstorm by hitting Machamp with the less effective Max Rockfall, ultimately giving Machamp the victory by submission, as Duraludon is forced to tap out to a third G-Max Chi Strike. My fearsome fighters once again stand tall, as we are now the #1 challenger. After resting for the night at the Rose of the Ronderlands Hotel, I made it back to Winden Stadium for the Champion Cup final match against the unbeatable champion Leon. But before the match could get underway, we got an alarming message on the big screen. Macrocosmos Chairman Rose hijacked the event, releasing uncontrollable Dynamax power, threatening to destroy the entire Galar region. So Hop, Leon, and I returned to the city of Hammerlock. It's a situation so dire that even Oleana had a change of heart, begging for me to stop Chairman Rose from going through with his plans. And of course, I obliged. Earlier in this run, I hatched a Torchic egg, and the main reason why was for this battle, bringing on Blaziken to become Rose's judge, jury, and executioner. Rose's team of 5 Steel types have virtually no idea what they're getting themselves into. I had Blaziken protect on the first turn, not to scout what Rose's first Pokemon Escavalier was gonna do, and it ended up being Swords Dance to boost its attack by 2 stages. But it was to give Blaziken an automatic speed boost at the end of the turn before knocking out Escavalier with a quad-effective Fire Punch. And with Escavalier going down, Blaziken's now at a +2 in speed right before Kling Klang comes out. It's the only Pokemon on Rose's team with relevant speed, but now with Blaziken having the speed advantage, Kling Klang has no chance of surviving this super effective Earthquake. In order for Blaziken's attacks to do as much damage as possible, I equipped Blaziken with the Expert Belt, as Ferrothorn went down to a second quad-effective Fire Punch. Berserker got chopped down by a super effective Brick Break, and Rose at this point was already defeated, considering his final Pokemon is Gigantamax Capparaja, the only Pokemon on Rose's team that can hit super effectively against Blaziken. 2 of Capparaja's attacks are the Ground Physical Attack High Horsepower and the Psychic Physical Attack Zen Headbutt, that has a small chance of flinching the opposing Pokemon. But Capparaja is as slow as dirt, and with Blaziken now at a +4 in speed, thanks to 4 straight speed boosts, it will not withstand, let alone survive, Blaziken's Max Flare attack. This convincing sweep administered by my favorite starter Pokemon of the Hoenn region was just the first part of what really needs to be done in attempts of saving the Galar region from certain destruction. Then against Eternamax Eternatus, my Assault Vest wearing Gallade cast a final blow with a super effective Psycho Cut, and after making the capture in a Luxury Ball, the legendary Zacian and Zamazenta returned back to Slumbering Weald, signifying the dawning of a brand new day in the Galar region. After saving the Galar region by stopping Rose's evil plans of inducing the darkest day, catching the legendary Pokemon Eternatus in the process, I made it back to Winden Stadium, where I headed out to the pitch for the final time, in front of a standing room only crowd, as I do battle against champion Leon. My fearsome fighters have risen above any and all challenges that have put in front of them, and this is the final proving ground. The 6 fighters that I chose for this battle are all at level 65, which is the same level as Leon's ace. Leon made it abundantly clear to my face that he plans for total obliteration. But I had a quiet confidence within myself that I was not only going to be the one to end Leon's celebrated undefeated streak, that I was going to end this entire run with all fighting types completely deathless, beating Leon's team without suffering a single loss. And it all starts with his first Pokemon, Aegislash. And my chosen lead just so happens to be the fire starter from the Hoenn region in Blaziken. Knowing that Aegislash loves to go for King Shield on the first turn, I wanted to do a non-contact move in Earthquake instead of any other move that would lower Blaziken's attack stat if it hit into the King Shield. After that first turn, Aegislash was done for as it succumbed to the tremors of Blaziken's Choice Band boosted Earthquake. But now Blaziken is locked into that move, and Leon's second Pokemon, Haxorus, threatens with a tectonic shakeup of its own, so I decided to swap in Poliwrath. Haxorus is the one Pokemon on Leon's team I strategize for the most because of its powerful dragon physical attack Outrage, which struck for over half of Poliwrath's hit points before Poliwrath retaliated with an Ice Punch which struck for just under half. And knowing that Haxorus is locked into Outrage, I brought in Lucario to take the next hit. Even though Lucario resists that move due to its secondary steel typing, Outrage still struck for just under half before Lucario wiped out the rest of Haxorus' HP with a Dragon Pulse. Lucario was able to move first on that turn because of his holding a Choice Scarf. The third Pokemon Leon summons in will be Rhyperior, who also has Earthquake, which will easily take Lucario out. So I brought back in Poliwrath, delivering with a quad-effective liquidation. I was risking a crit by bringing Poliwrath back in, and this Earthquake took Poliwrath down to 14 HP before Rhyperior went down to Poliwrath's quad-effective Waterfall. Out next for Leon is the speedy Dragon and Ghost-type Dragapult, which threatens the existence of Poliwrath with Thunderbolt. So I brought in the already burned Heracross, still holding its trusty Flame Orb because of its Guts ability. Dragapult struck first with a super effective Flamethrower, before this Guts-boosted Throat Chop scores a one-hit KO. Leon is down to 2 Pokemon remaining, as I brought in Hawlucha to deal with his penultimate Pokemon, the Galar region Grass Starter Monkey, Rillaboom. I attacked first with Hawlucha's signature Flying Press. Then, its speed got lowered by a stage when Rillaboom used its signature move Drum Beating, before it got healed up by Leon using a Full Restore. 2 more Flying Press attacks, which sandwiched Rillaboom's Endeavor attack that took Hawlucha down to 12 HP, was enough to put Rillaboom down, and now Leon is only left with his ace Pokemon, Charizard. Leon started to feel the pressure as the sold-out crowd started to go bonkers right after I brought my final Pokemon for this championship match in Gallade. And as Leon Gigantamaxed his precious Charizard, I made sure Gallade was holding an Assault Vest, considering all 4 of Charizard's attacks are special, and Gallade has one of the better special defense stats of any fighting-type Pokemon around. And as I Dynamax Gallade, Charizard struck first with a super effective Max Airstream which didn't even take off half. But there was a certain TR I found while doing Max Raid Dens, and I immediately taught it to Gallade, as Charizard gets absolutely crushed by a 4 times effective Max Rockfall, which is a rock physical attack based off the TR that I taught Gallade right before this fight in Stone Edge. It's time to crown me as the new Galar Region champion, as down goes Gigantamax Charizard and Leon's undefeated streak. That is how I managed to defeat all of Pokemon Shield using only fighting types without suffering a single loss of any fighting type Pokemon. The champion time for Leon is over, but gracious in defeat, he tips his cap to me, signifying the dawning of a new era in the Galar region, as this marks the end of my second attempt at a Monotype run for fun in Generation 8, following up the spectacular performance in my sword run, where I beat the game using only fairy types. This entire run had some exciting close calls and thrilling victories, exactly the way I like it, as I was able to go through a fighting type run of a Pokemon game Deathless for the second time, with the other being in Pokemon Scarlet. To all of you who took the time out and wanted to view this from the beginning to the end and enjoy the experience along with me, I sincerely thank you. If you love content like this, be sure to like and subscribe for more. Until the next one, take care, God bless you all, and keep on shining.